This show is brought to you by Beco Dairy Automation. You have tuned in to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all dairy connection. We call it the Dairyman's source for news, ideas, information, and technology, mixed with a double dose of current market conditions. The what, the why, and the how things influence the amount of money dairy producers receive for their daily milk deliveries. We offer this daily News Hour magazine as a catalyst for long-term dairy producer sustainability. We invite every dairy producer in America to get their daily dose of what can be done and what they can do to achieve and maintain profitability on their farms. $22 for 36 months is our goal. We advocate there is a way forward. We invite dairy producers to come listen, learn, and participate. This is a no-complaint zone. We talk solutions. So get out your pen and paper. And now, here's your host of the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, Mr. Tom Van Nortwick, owner of Agribusiness Publications, publisher and editor of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our broadcast this morning. It's a bright Monday morning in California, weather warming, expecting as much as a 90-degree day later this week. Way too warm, way too soon, but it's what we got. It's what they're going to deal to us, and we'll be fine. Maybe some rain later in the week, though, in this first week of April 2016. Today is the 4th already. And so we welcome you to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all dairy connection. In just a little while, we'll be joining Ron O'Brien and his staff on their conference call that he provides to us as a means for us to connect you and producers all over the country to what's going on in the markets. It's all about the markets today. What's happening and why it's happening, as we mentioned in our introduction. And the news that we bring to dairy producers on a daily basis is that there is a way forward. We don't have to stay here at this level with these prices indefinitely. There are steps that can be taken and opportunities provided to receive, obtain, maintain a pay price for milk which is profitable. Now, one of the things that we're doing in our publication, which is available for anyone to see at my-dairyman.com, www.my-dairyman.com. In our next issue, the focus is going to be on what has happened to the dairy producer sector outside of the United States, and offer the analysis and the look that we're going to provide in that monthly publication as a looking glass, if you will, a foreteller of the future for dairy producers in the United States, if in fact we do not find and implement, and the solutions are available, but let's just go with implement the solutions necessary in order to derive from the marketplace a fair price, a profitable price for the milk that dairy producers produce. And so, but it's interesting. As we cover the news this morning, let's get right to it. Dairy prices look likely to fall this week as the market buckles under the weight of increased supply. Population growth will continue to drive global dairy demand, and of course we get that all the time, and there's certainly going to be more need for more milk. Now, whether or not that milk is going to be able to profitably come from you here within the United States is something we would like to discuss, and over time we certainly will. In recent weeks, the European Commission announced a second package of measures to help dairy sector. Europe's milk production remaining high for a few years will remaining high for a few years, will mean hard times for New Zealand dairy farmers. The only part of the EU dairy sector that has seen revenue and margins wiped out are the farmers. And that is so astute we'll have to go look at that this morning and go through that article. But that is exactly correct. The only guys that take it in the shorts are the producers. European Union to provide milk to 350,000 Syrian children. Good for them. Questions for dairy giant Lactalis over financial secrecy. Tesco UK cuts milk price, but it's still the best price in Britain. New Zealand production is likely to fall and Chinese demand improving. Conditions for dairy price cycle turning, falling into place. Oh yeah, we can't wait. They're always way too optimistic, and far too little has been done, or is being done, to derive a price out of the marketplace for dairy producers. Indiana Walmart plant could use milk now sent elsewhere. We learned a week or two ago about the new plant being constructed in Indiana to come online in 17 and 18. And certainly there's going to increase demand at their plant. Now, whether that will have an impact on the overall milk production or utilization of milk in that area will remain to be seen. That milk is going somewhere now. It's not like there's no milk in Indiana, for crying out loud. Illegal labor, why Ted Cruz may beat Donald Trump in Wisconsin. Yeah, that would be special. U.S. agriculture faces formidable global challenges. And then China-based container traffic booms in lower-profile southeast U.S. port cities. And certainly China is a big player, going and coming with products here in the United States. I think of all the things that we're going to cover today will be our cover story. Will focus on this global thing, this talk global, this focus global, this let's put all of our eggs in the global basket plan that has been perpetuated in the U.S. dairy industry and has unfortunately created an extreme level of volatility, and we contend unnecessarily relative to what the U.S. market is doing in dairy. The United States dairy producers have spent millions and even billions of dollars to establish an amazing domestic market that is growing, not the way we would like to see it grow in fluid, but certainly in dairy products, innovation from the manufacturing sector, from the processing sector, and even in the retail sector to move more dairy products, get more dairy into the hands of more consumers in America. And it is, without a doubt, the biggest dairy consumption machine in the world. And unfortunately, dairy producers don't receive fair compensation for having paid for, quite frankly. And that's one of the big issues that I will contend needs to be resolved, is that they have paid to make it that way. Millions and billions of dollars have been provided by dairy producers and their other various partners in the U.S. dairy industry, including co-ops and processors and manufacturers, distributors and retailers. And millions are spent literally every day across this country to maintain or increase that market share of the consumer dollars in America. And we've identified a couple places where we could do better, and we're going to work on that and get it done. That we think that there's a 30% increase in utilization and consumption of dairy products, 30% of what we currently do. It has that much potential, but we're going to have to go after it, and we're going to have to do things different than we've ever done it before. But having said that, the investment will be millions more to get that accomplished, millions more, but it'll be worth it. But what is unfair is that the industry, those who have the ability to do so, have convinced dairy producers the only way to go is global, and you've got to tie yourself to global, and how do you like those global prices today? And in fact, you're not really even getting global price. And our next publication is going to focus on that what you're seeing already for dairy producers in the European Union and in Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, is a pay price equal to the 2009 U.S. domestic price at $9.56 a hundredweight. So they're at or around $9, That's the global price, so you're not even getting your butts kicked by that yet. But nevertheless, that's where we're headed. If dairy producers are willing to let the market take that from them, rob them of the profitability they deserve for having invested millions and even billions of dollars to grow the domestic market to what it is, and then to let it, to let that fall to nothing as if it means nothing and is nothing, because the marketplace will pay you global prices anyway, far below cost of production, as you seem to want to chase the plan of being the low-cost provider of milk, not only in America, but in the world. And so here's what's happened in the European Union. And this story is a great indicator of what we've got going here in the United States, and the impact that it's having on dairy producers there is what is slowly evolving here in the United States. Okay? Now, and so this article out of the Irish Examiner, okay, farmers are the only ones in the dairy sector to suffer, describing any situation as critical is obviously a subjective exercise. What I deem to be an emergency might not meet your expectations or your definition of an emergency. But no rational observer of the chaos and despair afflicting European Union dairy farmers at the moment could be in any doubt that is actually the only word applicable to the Farm Council held on March 14th. It's important to note the distinction I made there. We say EU's dairy farmers as opposed to EU's dairy sector, because that latter entity is doing very nice, thank you, referring to the European Union dairy sector, as compared to the European Union's dairy farmers. Several of our own processors announced eye-watering high profiles recently, and as usual, the retailers who complain against any moves to regulate their margins are still raking in astronomical sums from consumers. No, the only part of the European Union dairy sector that has been seen revenue and margins wiped out are the farmers, the ones on whom all the other parts of the sector effectively rest while receiving a price that is actually below the cost of production. For long months now, ICMSA has been warning that this situation is untenable, but neither should we succumb to the siren's call and apply rigid supply-side measures or reintroduce quotas by another name. Our position has never wavered. Quotas are not fit for purpose and had long since outlived any usefulness. Okay, we're going to stop there because we need to join up with Ron O'Brien in the marketplace. We'll return to this. It is a huge part of what we will be talking about here for quite a little while, because there is much need to review this and review it until producers gain a better understanding as to what is going on and how we're going to resolve it. Now, what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be joining Ron O'Brien. We'll get a little break in the action as we do that, and hang on for just a moment. Stuart, you want to give us some commercials, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. And thank you to our sponsors, by the way.
Cottage cheese, with its creamy taste and low fat content, has long been a choice of the health conscious. But cottage cheese is an excellent and tasty way to reach your 3 servings of dairy per day. Cottage cheese is perfect to layer homemade lasagna, and it blends the fresh taste of milk and the richest of cheese to favorite desserts or snacks. Top off cottage cheese with slices of peaches, strawberries, or pears. Low-fat cottage cheese, now starring in the dairy case at your favorite supermarket. Presented by the Allied Milk Producers.
Milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8-inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.becoKnows.com.
We had planned this morning to be with Ron O'Brien at the Blocks and Barrel Trades on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. We were on the call, but unfortunately not connected to that trading going on. So we'll come back in a little bit and see how things are going with powder. We were studying for just a moment the article in the Irish Examiner that basically is castigating, of course, the plan that is been implemented there in Ireland in behalf of dairy producers and across the European Union. But and that the dairy sector, I should say the producer sector of the dairy industry, are the only ones taking the hit that of no margins. In fact, milk prices below the cost of production. So let's resume that. The proposals coming out of the March 14 Farm Council represent a welcome realization that things will not work out by themselves. They certainly haven't been working out for themselves so far, and we have ended with the kind of supply-demand imbalance that enables the retail corporations to buy forward at prices pushed down and passed back till they have wiped out the farmers' incomes. It seems to have been the French who decided that this tragic hands-off farce would have to be brought to an end, and we may assume that they convinced the German government as well. Let me just keep on rolling on this, and I apologize, but I'm trying to be careful not to pick up let's see. They were hobbling, I think that's where I'm at, hang on a second. They are hobbling our best producers, and they had not saved us from the similar income wipeout experienced in 2009. But that cannot be the end of any attempt to match supply to demand and go forward with a coherent policy. For long months now, the ICMSA has been warning that this situation is untenable, but neither should we succumb to the siren's call. Our position has never wavered. Quotas were not fit for purpose and had long since outlived any usefulness. Now, of course, what you don't see here, and I'm going to add it because it needs to be said, is, and well, I'm not going to say it until I read further. Let's get on with that. Okay, so we grab that and slide it in. Okay. Edit us right here, Stuart. Get us right, because I'm having to jog around this story and all the pop-ups that come with it. The proposal's coming. Okay, we read that. Doubtless. Hang on, Stuart. We'll get it right. Doubtless, the electoral reverses suffered by the CDU in regional elections, and I apologize, this thing is responding about a week slow. Hang on, Stuart. You're going to have to put it right so I can see this thing. Okay, here we go, Stuart. Make sure I've got the mic on. I do. They were hobbling our best producers, and they had not saved us from the similar income wipeout experienced in 2009. But that cannot be the end of any attempt to match supply to demand and go forward with a coherent policy. The article continues, and goodness, we so badly need a coherent policy aimed at restoring dairy markets and milk price. Some figures will illustrate the extent of the hemorrhage of money from farmers and the local rural economies that depend on the farm spend. As of last week, ICMSA estimates that milk payments to Irish farmers plunged $628 million from 2014 to 2016. As that money was spent into the farmers' local economies and applying the standard multiplier of 1.7, we are now estimating that falling milk prices have cost the wider rural economy at least $1.5 billion over the 2 years. Cork's economy is down about $282 million in dairy spend, I should say. Tips about $120 million, and Limerick's about $91 million. There are absolutely vast sums in the context of, these are absolutely vast sums of money in the context of local rural economies. The proposals coming out of the March 14, we read that. Okay, so there's the French coming in, and let's go with this. Doubtless, the electoral, hang on. Yeah, I had some feedback come in there, Stuart, and I apologize. Let's start this again with doubtless. Doubtless, the electoral reverses suffered by the CDU in regional elections the weekend before the Farm Council helped to concentrate minds as well. The main plank arising from the Council is the decision to pay a subsidy to suppliers not to produce milk in an effort aimed at lowering the total volume of European milk. ICMSA has no objection whatsoever to any effort by individual member states to pay such a subsidy to individual milk producers or on a purely voluntary basis. That may well have some impact on the volumes, but if the object was to reinforce farmer milk price and start rebuilding the price, then we do not believe that either this measure or other measures tabled will provide the necessary impetus. If the desire was to immediately signal that farmer milk price was going to be rebuilt, then the ICMSA's opinion we needed an immediate increase in intervention price to 28, and I don't understand their monetary numbers here so much, and I apologize, price to 28 CPT or CPI, a massive upgrading of the volumes and options around storage. Okay, let's go with this at the end here. Those were the best options, and in answer to critics who note that neither would deal with the underlying problem, I'd say only that the EU doesn't lose money on intervention. Quite the opposite. Selling back into a rising market is actually a very sound commercial option. The other point that this doesn't deal with are the underlying problem depends on what you think the underlying problem actually is. As far as ICMSA is concerned, the underlying problem is the inability of a family farmer to earn any kind of proportionate and fair income despite being the foundation stone of a hugely profitable multi-billion-dollar euro sector. That's the underlying problem, and other considerations are absolutely secondary to that. Now, see, there's an interesting opinion, and he's right. The underlying problem is the family farmer is not able to earn any kind of proportionate and fair income despite being the foundation. You can't do this without milk. Okay? Somebody's got to pay the price to produce that milk, and it is no small deal. And so as we examine this article, what they failed to say, and it's probably not popular with their farmers, is that the farmers have to take responsibility for their production, whatever that is, relative to profitable demand in the market. They cannot relegate their future to the government. They cannot relegate it to intervention by the government to store up products and take it out of the market, to falsely pull it out of the market. You cannot produce milk and pay the price of producing it if you do not have a place for that milk to go. Something's got to give on that area. Something's got to give.
Move over, Manny, Mo, and Jack. For quick, convenient auto service and no appointment needed, ask for G Express service from Groppetti Automotive in Visalia. We'll guarantee an oil and filter change in as little as 39 minutes. And there's more. Need your tires rotated? A brake job? Even a 15,000-mile service? There's no appointment necessary, and we'll guarantee your service time. G Express. It's a new level of convenience you'll only find at Groppetti Automotive.
Is your milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8-inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.becoKnows.com.
So dairy producers have got to understand, and that's what we're going to preach and teach. This is not the government's fault. It's not the elected politicians' fault that the market is doing what the market is doing. Russia isn't buying from the European Union. Deal with it. China is not buying as much powder. Deal with it. That's nobody's fault. We can't change that. And Russia's deal is not going away soon. So what's that do? That takes the European Union out of Russia and out of Eastern Europe looking for a home for a whole lot of milk. And you've had a very long time now to adjust to the fact that they're not going to take your milk. Now, they may someday, but not now. Not that the people don't want it. Putin's wrong to do what he's doing to his people. But that's the people's choice. They want that leader. They're stuck with that leader. And so, there's got to be, and I apologize if we're getting any of that feedback into the sound, but it's so simple when we talk about it, and it's always seemed so simple to me that dairy producers needed to take full responsibility. It made sense from the first time I heard it. And dairy pricing, www.dairypricing.org, will teach you that. Not only do you have to take responsibility on the front end where you make the milk, but you also have to be prepared on the back end after it's manufactured to clear that inventory and reduce its impact, reduce the impact of the inventory on your pay price. And there's plenty of places to put that milk, butter, powder, cheese. There's plenty of people that don't have any in their diet today. We've covered that over and over and over again. So the Irish Examiner provides an input that's important to note, because this is the looking glass, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. This is your looking glass. And global is not the answer, because it is too volatile. You have too much competition. 29 million cows in the European Union. You can't compete against that. 63 million cows in India. China is gearing up to make more milk. Even Saudi Arabia is producing milk as never before and is staying very aggressive in their efforts to improve their operations, expand their operations, and so the countries are awash in milk. And they're able to buy anything they want, including the United States buyers are able to buy anything they want, anytime they want to get it at half price. And that'll, in fact, here's what your buyers do. They're so damn loyal that they'll go out and buy it at half price and not buy yours. So who do you have to support you? You guys have you to support you. And so, here's an article that says this. Europe's milk production, is going to remain strong for a couple more years, not slowing anytime soon. And they're predicting 2 more years, until everybody gets it. And maybe they won't get it. Maybe it's just the way it's going to be, is that we're going to end up with too few farmers, and so the numbers will fall then. Oh my gosh. Why? Here's the article. Beautiful cows in France, very different. This article coming, I want to see where it's coming from the RNZ, someplace in New Zealand, Europe. I don't see an author to this, but here's what they had to say. New Zealand dairy interests are hoping European farmers will reduce production to stimulate depressed world dairy prices. Does it sound like that's going to happen? But European dairy farmers spokesperson Steffi Willie Sonk told the RNZ Rurals that was not going to happen anytime soon. That was because dairy farmers were lifting production despite low milk prices to get a return on their investments. A Hawke's Bay farmer, New Zealand's Special Agricultural Trade Envoy, Mr. Peterson, spent 2 weeks in Europe meeting with government and industry leaders. He said there was no doubt Europe was churning out more milk. The increased production is going to continue, particularly for most of the season, and that is going to be the difficult thing for New Zealand, is how do we cope with world markets still getting increased production out of Europe? Mr. Peterson said milk deliveries across Europe were up 15 to 20% a year after the quotas were lifted, with farmers' increased production now hitting its stride. So we're seeing the full effects now coming into play. Unfortunately, I think that it's going to last well into their autumn, which is when they'll start thinking about drying off their cows. But he said there had been talk about limiting what farmers produced. The European Commission said has had a series of meetings about how they could put voluntary measures in place for each country to try and put effectively supply quotas back in place to limit production. But it's on a voluntary basis, so this is up to every country now to try and reduce production on their own terms, and some countries simply aren't going to do that. In fact, it's very difficult to see how that mechanism will work. In any view, that voluntary measure will fail and production will continue to increase. Ireland is one country, for example, that was a 7 billion liter producer that's had ambitions to grow by 50% over 10 years. And I have every confidence they'll achieve that. Other countries, I think, will produce extra milk, and with increased competition, then we'll settle down into what I call a normal rate of production. But I think it's going to take a couple of years before we see the market settle in Europe after the lifting of quotas, and that's going to be a couple of different years for New Zealand. So, gang, I mean, there's no good news out there about where this is going. And so we advocate wholeheartedly that the U.S. dairy producers have got to see this train wreck coming. And they've got to unify themselves behind a plan that will include market-responsive milk production. You don't need quotas. You don't need government. You only need the market to tell you you can't sell. If you can't sell it, don't produce it. And you don't need to be paying for the privilege of making too much milk that you cannot sell for a profit. Just because it makes more dollars doesn't mean it makes more sense. And so the long-term effect of being 4 to 6%, we've talked about this over and over, we're going to say it again, the long-term effect of being 4 to 6% and a 40% reduction in pay price, 50%, 60% reduction in pay price is just not worth it. Chasing that little bit of extra dollars is not worth a pay price increase, when in fact a unification of producers behind a market-responsive milk production reduction of 2% per month could correct this probably in a I would guesstimate no more than a 6-month period of time. But you've also got to be prepared to step it up on imports. We do not need to be importing milk and milk products into the United States. Now, tariffs? No, we don't need tariffs. Just don't buy it. No, we're choosing U.S. made. Thank you. The consumers want U.S. made. Now, where they want to buy foreign, and that because it's exotic and they like it and it has more flavor or it's taste or it's whatever that is, then let the market decide that. But let's don't go out there and bring milk and milk products into the United States that, number one, we're not sure about, the conditions under which it was produced and manufactured. We cannot afford to lose consumer confidence in the milk chain, the cycle that is the milk production, milk processing, milk manufacturing, and milk distribution in this country. Dairy has been blessed from the standpoint that it produces the best product in the world, U.S. dairy, and provides the best product possible right to the retail consumer table. That's critical. And anything less than that is just not wise. And so we're going to try here. We'll break right here, Stuart. Let's go see if we can pick up Ron O'Brien. I've rambled on as I've tried to get these completed, but let's go see what's happening with Ron for just a moment.
As dairy farmers watch profits slip away and a wonderful way of life painfully comes to an end for future generations, Dairy Pricing Association sees a brighter future simply by having a solution. These dairy pricing farmer members in 10 states and growing have figured out a way. Government handouts are not the answer. It's time for farmers to take matters in their own hands. Dairy Pricing Association is asking for farmers to contribute 10 cents per hundredweight to buy surplus dairy products to create a floor price, as well as helping relieve hunger in America. This is a win-win. As dairy farmers, we watch markets fluctuate as much as $4 per hundredweight in 1 month's time. 10 cents is nothing. Imagine being able to curb another 2009 scenario simply by controlling the floor price that you need as a dairy farmer to stay in business. With the dairy products that you as a dairy pricing member purchase, thousands of people are fed. No government assistance is needed. Rather, simply you as a dairy farmer are helping yourself by helping others. For more information, visit online dairypricing.org.
Are you restricting the profitability of your dairy herd? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166. Check our website at becoKnows.com.
Anxious to be back and hear what the markets did on this Monday morning. We have been covering, though, in our feature, our cover story for this day, April the 4th, is all about the global market and providing an opportunity for dairy producers to get a better understanding of what's going on global. We're going to see to kind of let's go this way. The problem is this. Russia says, no, we're not letting you sell your milk products here. That's in retaliation for economic sanctions that have been placed on Russia because of their intervention in the Balkans and military and otherwise. And that isn't going to be changed. Why? Because you know what? There's a certain segment of the Russian population in the Balkans who want Russia there. It isn't like they took over everything and everybody, but there's a certain segment that doesn't, so that contention is going to go back and forth. The economic sanctions are going to stay in place for at least another year, 2, 3, or 4, who knows. Russia's going to retaliate, and so no milk products from the European Union are going to be sent there. Now, so that sends the signal to the European Union that they're going to go look elsewhere to market their milk and milk products. They've got to. They've got to get them sold. Can't keep them forever. And so they're out there doing that, and they're competing in the same markets that we competed in, the same markets that New Zealand and Australia compete for, and everybody else selling milk around the world. And so now you've got smaller markets. China has backed in and out of the market. We're never sure what China's going to do next, but guess what? They're buying a lot of powder right now, and there have been here in this first quarter of 2016. But guess what? The beauty for them is they're getting it at half price or lower compared to what they were in 13, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then they backed out of the market, prices fell, they've fallen more than 50%, and so now they can come back in on a regular basis. Our inventory levels are the highest in history, as are those around the world, wherever they're storing that extra stuff being produced, manufactured in the European Union. Guess what? Those storehouses are full. They need to dump it. They need to get rid of it. They'll take whatever they can get for it, and so they're selling it. And of course, the beauty for them is they didn't pay anything for it. Their number one cost of production from the European farmers, the dairymen, has been reduced for 2 years. They're further into this than we are, but we're now in our second year. They're now into their third year. And so, and yet, there's the article today, population growth will continue to drive global dairy demand. Yes. We'll see. But what we found out, of course, is that when a country, a group of countries, can increase milk production by 10, 15, and 20% in 1 year, there isn't any amount of demand, unless we're going to inhabit a new planet, for crying out loud, that's going to be able to gobble up 10, 15, 20% increase in milk production from 29 million cows. Even if those cows don't give as much as yours do, and their efficiency is not as high, but I guarantee you their inputs are not what yours are either. I would bet a California producer spends more on regulation compliance and governmental intervention and compliance with all of the rules and regs to produce milk in California are more expensive than the feed costs for most dairy producers in the European Union. That's a pretty bold statement, but I'll bet it's surprisingly close. Okay, so the need for American producers to examine how they're going to move forward has never been greater, because the volatility provided to the pay price of milk, or influenced by the global marketplace, is just is an unsustainable model. And I was with a dairy producer 2 weeks ago, and he was emphatic. It's a global market. We're going to have to deal with the global market. Well, it's not sustainable. Well, then we'll have fewer producers. That was the response. That was the plan. We'll have fewer producers. Now, what kind of plan is that? What kind of leadership is that? I'm sorry, but it's not. Not when there is a way to disconnect from global. Not when you've built and spent millions and billions of dollars to sustain and build and sustain a domestic market, second to none in the world, providing a product that is second to none in the world. Holy cow. That does not need to be flushed down the toilet because somebody has come up with this brilliant idea that the American producers' price for milk sent to the domestic U.S. market should be priced at global. I guarantee you cars are not sold that way. I guarantee you Apple doesn't sell that way. I guarantee you very few things in this world are sold that way. And so the margins that are needed by dairy producers are real. And what we see going on with these articles that are coming to us on a daily, weekly basis out of the European Union and Oceania and other parts of the world, and even in China, there's pressure on the Chinese producers to take less for their milk. Why? Because China can get it cheap someplace else. And so I was going to, here's this one, here's the forecast, and I'm going to see if this is domestic. Hang on while I check this out. Otago, no, that's out of what country, for crying out loud? It's hard for me to tell sometimes. But here, this is more European Union. Dairy prices look likely to fall this week as the market buckles under the weight of increased supply. The global dairy trade price index has only managed to post one small gain, 1.4%, on March the 2nd so far this year. See, and I'm getting feedback again. So there isn't any too much good news at all. My computer trying to differentiate what's going on today. All right. More feedback coming through, and we'll hope the system catches up to it. Stuart, let's put some commercials in right here. I hope you'll listen to this for me and take out these gaps. And I don't know how to grab that to make it stop. And the question is whether or not it's coming in on the board on your side, because we still have Pamela running. We're 58 minutes into this. We're going to cut this out. I'm going to get off the headset so I can think to finish this morning, and then you just piece it all together. Thanks. All right. I'm dying. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, everyone. Well, we've beat this up enough, and it's not news. It's not new news for us, but maybe a different type of focus today, as we're pushing, and our mindset is all about getting dairy producers to notice what's going on globally, what that's doing to you, to subject yourself to the global marketplace. And there are solutions. One would be to, of course, increase the domestic consumption and utilization of milk and milk products in the United States, better tasting, more nutritious. We're going to go there. Second, we're going to push an effort that will see to it that more Americans, about 25% of the population actually, do get dairy in their diets on a daily basis, and hopefully meal by meal, that the dairy choice can be provided to them in their menu planning and in fact available to the very people who might be preparing a meal for a segment of the U.S. population that are not currently getting dairy in any of their meals, much less daily, weekly, monthly. But we want to see that trend shifted so that there are dairy options available to them for every single meal here in the United States. Fortification, we've talked about that. We're also going to push an effort to improve the quality of U.S. milk. We also are going to push an effort to do what we were recommended be done. It was recommended to us quite some time ago, which is to disconnect global impact on dairy prices in America by creating a Class 5 milk that would go global. If you overproduce what would be profitable demand for milk based on the domestic market, then that milk would go global. You want to play global, but don't play global with domestic demand and production for domestic consumption. And so we're going to look at that, and that possibility exists. We're going to do our best to organize dairy producers to take total responsibility for their milk from the front end to the back end and build and maintain a sustainable, profitable price for their milk going forward. The way to get that done is simply through organization, through a collaboration of all the partners, because processors can't do this without producers. Producers can't do it without processors. Processors can't do it without retailers. And retailers can't do it without processors and producers. We're not going to relegate the production of milk to some other country, somebody outside of the United States. And we're going to have to balance this all out and work together because it can be done. $22 for 36 months is our goal for U.S. dairy producers, removing the volatility, giving them a level playing field where dairy producers are the ones asking for and receiving their pay price because they are anxiously engaged in the marketplace, not quotas, not government, not set aside, not even CWT, because CWT doesn't do what needs to be done. CWT cannot continue to discount the price of cheese and butter. Why? Because that just perpetuates cheap cheese and butter. Our cheese and butter is worth more than that. And so there's ways to do that, and it's to the benefit of the producers. It's to the benefit of the U.S. population. So thank you for joining us this morning. We'll be back on Tuesday, April the 5th, 2016. We appreciate the opportunity we have to provide some news and analysis. We're going to get better at this and do a far better job in the weeks and months ahead of providing far better content than me rambling. But for now, we're relegated to this learning curve that we're going to go through. But there's a lot more people out there with a lot more to say that has a lot more importance and impact in the dairy industry. But these things nevertheless need to be said, and we'll continue to do it. And thank our sponsors, those who help us bring this message forward, including dairy producers here in the United States. Everyone be well. Have a safe Monday, and enjoy this spring day and a prosperous day, I hope, for all of you. Be safe, and we'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.
The time for picnics and backyard barbecues is here. Schedule as many as you can because, the cold weather months, they just last too long. Make your cookouts and picnics extra special by including lots of delicious dairy products. Cheese for those hamburgers, cheese cubes to snack on, Frosties and ice cream to top off your cookout or picnic. Not only are these dairy products fun foods, they're downright delicious and nutritious. Presented by the Allied Milk Producers.
Bring unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us at 1-800-344-7166.
To learn or hear more, please join us for our daily News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all-dairy connection. It is broadcast live every morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific and 11:30 a.m. Eastern. You can join the broadcast by calling 712-432-0900. Your conference PIN number is 666632#, or you can listen to the recorded call by dialing 712-432-0990, using your same PIN number for personal access. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. We truly believe you need to and can know more. Our job is to deliver more knowledge to dairy producers, believing that if knowledge is power, then applied knowledge is nuclear power. We'll see you on the call.